Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know what is going on here. I think we're cursed tonight. So let's see if this works a little bit better. And let me invite Niniane back in here. And let's see if we can get this working this time.
So here's the audio setup.
Let's see if we're less cursed this time around. Take two.
Take two.
Sorry about that, everyone. We've been having some wicked technical difficulties this evening.
It's not meant to be. I don't know.
Well, I think it's working good this time around. So
Fingers crossed
fingers.
and toes crossed.
So the audio setup there, I'm curious. Like, what do you guys have a recording studio as well as having dark rooms?
No, my partner's just an audiophile and he really likes music.
Oh, okay.
So, he restored that reel to reel, even though we don't use it. Like all of these preamps and doodads and whatnots. I don't even know really what they do, but they make the music sound good.
That's all that matters, as long as the music sounds good.
So right now he is building two matching tube amps. Monoblocks.
Okay, that's exciting. He would probably really get along with my friend Clint and some of his hi-fi buddies. I was just hanging out at his warehouse the other day, and they were mucking about with these like massive all-tech Lansing horn speakers that weigh like 150 pounds each, powered with tube amps and all of this stuff. It sounds nice. I just
Yeah.
don't understand it.
I mean, we'll have people over and fire it up and they're just blown away by how good the music sounds in here.
Yeah, it beats those Crosleys you could buy at Target, right?
Probably a little bit, yeah.
So I was curious now that this is working here. What got you into like photography, and then what led you into like the alternative processes?
Um, let's see, I got my first camera when I was 6, I think. Um, it was an Ansco disc camera, and I would do things like take pictures of my toy dinosaurs in the backyard.
Nice.
That was my first foray into photography. Um, and then, kind of post high school, I was gifted my stepmother's old F1 kit
Ooh,
and was just like a total maniac running film through that thing.
the
Um,
Canon F1
yeah,
or
Canon F1,
nice.
the 1980 Olympic special version. No, it was 1980. Um, so I turned into a total shutterbug. And so I had taken a year off of school between high school and going to college. And so when I started going to community college, I enrolled in a photo class there. Stayed at that program for 3.5 years. I maxed out all of my photo credits. I became the darkroom tech. I was just all in.
That's cool.
Yeah, and because I teched for classes, I kind of had like full run of the darkroom and the studio when they weren't in use. I just used all of my time to experiment and look through books and try all sorts of weird and wacky things. That program was heavily um, darkroom focused. We had an amazing black and white lab and two amazing instructors. So that was absolutely the best photo education uh, I could get. And so after I maxed out my classes there, I transferred to San Jose State. And that's where I really got into alt process, taking Brian Taylor's historic processes class there.
I've never heard of that one. What the historic processes class? What was
Yeah,
that about?
I mean, it's standard at most places that have darkroom facilities where you get kind of a basic intro to alternative processes, usually starting with cyanotype. So we did cyanotype, Van Dyke, and gum.
Okay. And that's where your love and hate of gum began. And I also noticed that you're into Polaroids too. What got you into the Polaroid kick?
Um, well, for what, 3.5 years, I worked at Photo Booth in San Francisco, and so we were both a tintype portrait studio and an analog film and camera store. So we were heavily into Polaroid and lomography and all sorts of analog stuff. And um, Brian Brooks started the Instant Photo Walk, which was first based with us at Photo Booth. But I didn't actually get into Polaroids that seriously until after Photo Booth closed, oddly enough.
Okay.
But it was just kind of around, and I was seeing what was going on with Impossible, and it was at that point very impossible. Um, but
I see what you
in
did there.
many, many ways. um, so it was just kind of part of the photo conversation that we were having there. Um, and what's so nice about Polaroid is that it's an instant medium. You you have your finished product like the second you click the shutter, which is the exact opposite of what I do when I'm doing gum bichromate prints, which take me 3 or 4 days to make. So it was kind of a nice counterbalance of something that was more instant gratification, and it's fun to play with, new film stocks and new cameras and see what happens. And because you don't know when you pick up a new camera how you and it are going to interact and
Yeah.
how it's going to change how you see. Um,
Well,
so in a way,
same thing.
picking up the Polaroid was just kind of a bit of a release in that I wasn't thinking of making series or making art. I was just having fun taking pictures.
That's important to have fun. It makes
Um,
a huge difference.
so I've gotten um, into instant film a little bit more. I've done a couple series using inspired Polaroid, which is really fun because you have no idea if it's even going to work. But I love when you don't get the full spread and you get,
Yeah.
these partial images that come up.
Yeah, and like for some people that aren't familiar with what she means, with the full spread on the Polaroids is, sometimes when you shoot expired Polaroids, all the developer doesn't spread the whole way, and that's because the developer packs are in the little white space in the bottom here, but it's not one big contiguous pack. There's actually three pods in here, and sometimes when they age, they some of the pods age differently than others, and so sometimes one or two of the pods will work great, and you'll get like weird spreads, and it's kind of funky because it looks like mountains and stuff like that. It's really cool.
So on my website, in the Polaroid figures category, I did a bunch of news with the expired Polaroid, and some of them are so cool because you might just most center little bits to the side, and there's always weird color shifts. Like some of them are blue, and there's some that turn out bright yellow, and,
That
and you have no idea what any pack is.
Yeah, that's the kind of joy with the expired Polaroid. You really have no idea what you're getting into. Like it's kind of a crapshoot. I have kind of found though that at least for a lot of the packs I've shot, there's like a bit of consistency. Like the first couple, you can kind of get an idea of like where the pods are going to be.
Yeah,
And
usually like within the pack, you after you start to have a general idea of what it might do.
yeah, so you kind of know it's like if I'm gonna like be framing the shot, I'm okay dead center, but like they kind of like die partway through, or it's more to the left or more to the right. Yeah, it's Polaroid's fun. That's what got me into Polaroid was playing with expired film because I got into it late. Like I didn't start playing around with Polaroids until like 2017, and it was just before stuff started like skyrocketing in price. So it's like I was still able to find people that were like, "Oh yeah, I got like this box of old Polaroid stuff. Some first $20 takes it kind of thing." And now it's just like expired Polaroid. Don't know what it's like. $100 for the pack, and it's like no, which is crazy. I can't believe how much people are charging for old instant film now.
And especially because you don't know your
Yeah,
energy, especially if you're buying like lots off of eBay, that you have no idea how it's been stored. If the pods are completely dead.
yeah, like that's the saddest thing. Like when you get something off of eBay and you shake it and it sounds like a maraca, and you're like, oh no, that's the saddest sound. That's cool. Um, so with the dark rooms in your place, is that just for kind of fun, or is that like you produce stuff as part of your practice?
Um, you know, a little bit of both. My partner's been a black and white, mostly large format guy for what, almost 30 years. Um, so he originally set up the darkroom here, and um, and so he's very very prolific in this black and white work.
That's cool. Jen's curious if anyone's found out a way to reconstitute dried out pods. I don't think so. I wonder if anyone's tried like injecting like water or something with a syringe into the pods,
Yeah,
just
that's
moisten it up a bit.
well. I've got plenty of dried out film here. To try it.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of dried out stuff too that makes me so sad. She says I did try it, so I'm guessing it wasn't a successful science experiment.
Yeah, I think chemicals are dry, but in a way that would.
Yeah, I guess water wouldn't really be effective with that one. I had a bunch of Spectra that I bought that just was like it was all dead, and it was like a super bummer because like the pods were like rock hard and there was just like no chance. And then a bunch of 4x5 sheets that were all dried out, which was really sad too because like the 4x5 Polaroid was such a cool format.
I I missed it. I
Sorry,
when I
you missed.
first you know back the early 2000s, oh, you could go 55
Yeah,
and all that fun stuff.
yeah. Type 55 is such a cool format. Like that's I still have a bit of a box that the last time I shot it, which was like 2 years ago now, it was working. So I should probably get around to finishing to shoot that box off. I think I'm losing your audio again. The curse is back. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
All right, maybe it's working again. Fingers crossed. Cool. Is there any like projects or stuff you've been working on the last little bit that you're all excited about, or like, is there anything that you're super jazzed about with any of your practice?
I mean, really, the last year and a half has been non,
Mm.
uh, you know, feeling COVID and lockdown and that created. Um, it's been hard to feel creative and inspired. Um, so I've done a couple things. I I took a really interesting workshop with Morgan Matthew on making your own memento mori, and I got some really interesting pieces that came out of taking the class.
I think there's comments that your audio is cutting out again. Um, we're just not having much luck tonight. Dang. Um, maybe we'll let's try turning both of our videos off and just going dark and audio only, and maybe that'll help with your bandwidth on your side too.
I can't figure out how to turn my video off.
There's a little like camera icon. It'll be like next to like the microphone icon. Um,
I think it might just be on your side.
maybe like somewhere around your image there, maybe.
All I get is turning my camera around.
It should be like next to or maybe I don't know. We'll try this. Maybe like my video being off will be less bandwidth on your side. What was the project you said you were working on? No,
Oh, so I took an online workshop with Morbid Anatomy on creating your own memento mori and kind of the idea of confronting death through art. So I made some interesting work out of that class. I did some Polaroid transfers where the prompt is this historic idea of half living and half dead. Um, so I printed out a digital image of a skull, and I did the Polaroid transfers of my face over the skull, and it turned out really interesting. So I want to continue with that a little bit. And right now, I live on a lake. We are experiencing a horrible drought. So the lake level is the lowest it's been since 1977. I think the second lowest in recorded. So all of this stuff is getting uncovered as the lake recedes. So I've been picking up kind of human garbage that is being exposed. So I'm going to be doing a series of still lifes based on the random things that I'm pulling out of the lake. So the other day I found a 1952 Coke bottle.
You found a what? Sorry?
A 1952 Coke bottle.
Whoa, holy shit.
Yeah. Like tools that have been dropped off our boat lift that have been in the water for 5 years. Found a radio. Like mostly, beer cans and beer bottles. But, things get dropped off of boats or swept up in storms. And so there's this layer of human garbage that's kind of littering our buildings and picking up and trying to kind of recontextualize. So I'm planning on shooting these in Kentucky. So it should be interesting. Sorry.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, like I saw some of the stuff on the drought that's going on in California, and it's wild. Like I saw some photos of Lake Mead, and I mean it was already like the last time I saw Lake Mead was like 4 or 5 years ago, and they were already in like this is a danger zone kind of situation. And it was even wilder to see like how low it's at now. Like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and the lake fast we have such a tradition of houseboats. The lake is so low that either the houseboats are up basically on the parking lot now, or
Okay,
they're all crammed into this like tiny lake. There's no water.
that's crazy.
But luckily it's raining. Hallelujah. I think everybody in California is very, very excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, because that also means hopefully fire season is over.
Are you guys still having some fires going on down there right now?
Um, Not too many current fires started this year. Um, and there were so many fires.
Yeah,
But only one too close to us this time.
yeah, I saw some of the fires were pretty gnarly this year. Like that is like one thing that BC shares with California is that joyful West Coast fire season.
And it just gets earlier and earlier.
Yeah, it's crazy too, like how some people are with the fire stuff. Like, shit, this was like in 2003. I used to work for Time Warner Roadrunner Broadband Cable, as a customer support person in a call center in Kamloops, but covering America. And we were getting calls during like the fires in 2003 that were going on down there, and I would have people phoning in being like, my internet's broken and I need to send email. And I'm like, okay, like what's your address? And I look up like their address and I'm like, you're in a fire zone. Like you have no internet because the lines have melted. Like, and they're like, but I need to send an email. It's like, you need to get the fuck out of your house before you burn your house. They're like, I'll pay for my internet and I want the internet. It's like, yeah, but
You're on fire right now,
it's like, get the fuck out of your house before you burn, you idiot.
right?
And it was just crazy. Like we would get call after call of these people being so pissed at us that their internet wasn't working because of the fires. And it's like, I get it, but like you're in an evacuation zone. Like, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were what I guess three or so years ago. We were under evacuation for a week because we were right between two fires that practically joined. So one was on this side of us and one was on this side of us, and like we're right there. So basically, they evacuated the whole western half of the county because there's only one highway.
Yeah.
So I was evacuated to our apartment in San Francisco for a week with our cat, who had a nervous breakdown. So that was fun.
Because of the stress of the fire and stuff. Or...
Um, I think because she went from having a house and a yard and being able to go outside to being trapped in a studio apartment, and she had no idea what the hell was going on. So I'd wake up at like 2 in the morning and she's just like crying. I'm like, sweetie, there's no outside. You can't go out because there is none. I'm sorry.
Cats don't like that. Not one bit.
So
Yeah.
the second I got that text alert on my phone saying we've been downgraded to evacuation warning, I'm like, I'm picking up the car and bringing her home.
You must have been
Because,
so happy to be back.
oh, but that, I mean, it's so stressful. And so now every fire season, I'm constantly filled with anxiety and dread.
Is
Because
your guys is your house in like a danger zone or?
I mean, we're in kind of a suburban spot in a very, very rural county. So we are in a danger zone. And we've seen over the past couple of years, like with the fire that went through Santa Rosa and the fire that went through Paradise, just because you're in a more built up area, doesn't mean you're safe from wildfire anymore.
That's
So
scary.
that's
Have you ever um done any like photography of the fires when that's happened? Have you ever had a chance to go explore that or?
yeah, after some of our big fires, we've, you know, gone on excursions and driven through kind of the devastation and the fire where we were evacuated burned along the highway to get into the county. So, you know, I drove through that, you know, at least once a month. So I have taken pictures of some of the aftermath, but I don't know if they were successful, and I haven't really done anything with them. I think partially it just feels a little too raw.
Yeah, I understand that kind of sentiment. Like there's a bunch of stuff I've shot that probably won't like get out there publicly just because it's too raw. Like it's just, I don't regret taking the photo, but it's just like, it's this is not for mass consumption.
Yeah. And it's like if I'm driving through somebody's neighborhood where, you know, people have lost their homes, that just feels exploitative. And
Mm. Yeah, I can see the exploitative thing. It is still also important to have like some kind of documentation of that too, though, to
yeah.
just, at some point in the future, like, it'd be important to have that. But hey, we had a really bad fire here, well, several bad fires in BC, but one that like completely destroyed a small village in the interior named Lytton. And that was like a really sad one because like people had like next to no warning to get out. Like it was just all of a sudden the town was ablaze and people had to abandon ship. And it's been months now, and they're not even allowed to go back into the remains of the town because the government is saying that there's like something toxic there. So these people aren't even able to go sift through what's left of their lives to see if there's anything there. And yeah, it's kind of just awful to hear about that.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Especially because with these fires, they can come through so quickly and you don't have warning. And so it's like, what do you grab, especially, you know, as photographers where you have, you know, decades of negatives and things that it's like when when I was faced with evacuation, I was like, all right, get my negatives, get some cameras, family photos, and I grabbed a big bag of expired Polaroid. And
Nice.
I'm like, most everything else doesn't matter, but I'm taking this Polaroid with me just in case.
Well, Papa Land's not making any more of it, so
No?
yeah, like it's important to grab that kind of stuff. Like one of my friends, an artist friend of him and his wife's, she's like, I think they said that she's like, in either late 70s, early 80s, but her whole creative practice just burned to the ground because her studio was in her house, and like, decades worth of work just completely gone. And she's like, I'm old. I'm not starting over again. Like it was pretty devastating for her to find that, and I couldn't imagine what that's like. And it's weird thinking about those things too. Like I've spent a bunch of money at home to like create these backups for like all of my media stuff that I make on the computer, like photographs and things like that. And I've spent all this money to have like these hard drives that protect it at home. But then I'm like, what if my house burns down and they like, all that money doesn't matter. So it's like it's important to have some sort of idea to back that up. I don't know, to like a cloud or put it in a safety deposit box or something. Like it's um it's weird to think about sometimes, but it's not something that a lot of us have to think about.
I mean, before natural disasters were like earthquakes. If things fall off the shelf, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
Um, Fires are just so destructive that it's hard to comprehend.
yeah, it is. Well, it's good that it's raining because that'll hopefully help a bit, not only with the drought, but any fires that may still be sizzling on.
Yep.
That's very cool. Out of all of the things you've done so far in your practices and stuff, um, what's been one of your either most favorite or most interesting moments you've had with
Um, Geez, tough one. Well, I think one thing we haven't even mentioned yet is my work with Analogue Forever magazine,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
has been an amazing journey because I've been able to meet and connect and talk to so many different photographers, and it's kind of funny in that you can call someone up or have a Zoom meeting with someone you've never met before, but so often you just feel this instant connection, like you guys have been friends forever and you have the same interests and similar ideas, and that's been really great, just getting to know more photographers doing different sorts of practices.
And how did you get into being part of that Analog Forever?
Um, Out of the blue, I got an email from Michael Kirchhoff saying, I'm going to be editor in chief for this new magazine that Michael Balin's starting. Do you want to come on board as a writer? And I'd never really done any writing or that sort of thing before, and it just sounded like an interesting challenge to take on.
That's
And
cool.
so
And how long have you been
just
part of
had
it?
our we just had our third anniversary, I think.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. And our fifth print issue is at the printer right now. So that should be coming out next month, which is very exciting.
That's very cool. Yeah, I've been seeing the posts for it on your guys' Instagram.
Yeah, so like for this issue, I talked to uh, one guy who's a Turkish Brit that's living in Madrid, one
Cool.
guy that lives in Medicine Hat, Alberta, that used to be a fashion photographer in Milan,
That
living in Santa
Medicine Hat,
Fe.
Medicine Hat is a long way away from Milan. Like that's
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He grew up in Medicine Hat, uh, got into photography, decided to move to Milan and become a fashion photographer. And now
oh,
he's back.
okay. That makes more sense then. Because I was just
It
like,
wasn't just like a random decision.
yeah. Because I'd be like, man, who? So I was born and grew up in Calgary for a little bit, which is not too far away from Medicine Hat. So I'm just like, one doesn't just wake up one day and be like, I'm gonna move to Medicine Hat. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. Um, so just meeting all of these different people that I wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to talk to before has been really cool.
That's so cool.
And it's inspiring to see all the different work people are creating and especially using analog processes.
So not to put you on the spot, but what's been like one of your most favorite interviews so far through Analog Forever? Or if picking one is hard, top three.
Okay. Probably one of my favorites was my interview with Fred Lyon. I've known Fred for over a decade, and he is in his 90s now. Uh, and he was a commercial, but he also has this vast archive of street photography in San Francisco. And when I interviewed him, I spent 2 full afternoons in his studio just chatting and listening to stories. And he's just one of the nicest, funniest men I've ever known. And so being able to spend that time with Fred was really special.
That's cool.
Let's see, who else? And Wes Bell, the photographer in Medicine Hat. Like when we talked, it was just like one of those things where it's an instant connection, and you're able to just chat with somebody and connect with them on an ideas level. Trying to think of who else I've talked to. Just so many people. They're very cool.
That is very cool. I can kind of like understand that neatness and relate to it a little bit, like with the chat. Like I've talked to a lot of people who I've been like loosely connected with, and some people who I've never actually talked with at all before previously. And it's been kind of cool, like, having that mutual connection of like photography between each other helps sort of like bridge that gap and makes it easier to chat to these people, and it feels like you've been talking to someone for that you've known for ages.
Yeah. And we're all such nerds that we connect with other nerds. That's just the nice thing about photography.
Yeah, it is. Definitely nerdy. I like getting nerdy with other people sometimes too about it, because it's just kind of fun to like just have like not necessarily gear talk, but like getting nerdy about like the things that you like enjoy doing about it, or things that you've tried that are kind of neat, and sharing that. And you're mentioning chatting with your friend Fred there, who's in his 90s. Like, those must be some really fun conversations to geek out with him and hear the stories that he's experienced in his time.
Yes. And boy, does he have stories. Okay, one of my favorites. I will give you a great Fred Lyon story. He wasn't there for this, but he had an amazing studio in Sausalito with a full bank of windows. And he was on a job in New York, and some editor called him up and said, "Hey, Pen's going to be in San Francisco to do this story. Can he use your studio?" And Fred's like, "Sure, okay, I'll hook you up with my assistant. The fridge is full of beer." So he brings all of these Hells Angels to the studio for the photo shoot. The girlfriend's like crazy in the dressing room. They're trying on like all these wigs and models' clothes, and basically walk out with half of the contents of the studio. But there's this one moment where apparently all of the Hells Angels are like, lined up against the windows. Fred's like, "Why wasn't I there for that? That would have been an amazing picture."
That would have been such. Why didn't someone grab a picture of that? That would have been such a great picture.
Maybe it exists, but it's one of those ridiculous stories where it's like, they stole the painting out of the kitchen, they stole the glasses out of the photo Vader's face, and no one was going to argue with the Hells Angels.
No, no. Typically, you don't really argue with that. They kind of get their way.
But he tells these stories like, but it's just the type of thing that wouldn't necessarily believe, but you know they're true.
Yeah, it's kind of those stories are really interesting. Like since moving back to Vancouver, I've made acquaintances with a gentleman named Henry Robidoux, and he's like part of like the Vancouver school of photographers that were like famous back in the day, like Fred Herzog and stuff like that. And he's getting up there. I think he's like got to be in his late 70s, early 80s now. But the stories he has are just fantastical, like that, like and it's just like the wild times that they would have been through. And he's telling me like when he bought his buying cameras for like just a couple $100. I'm like, yeah, that's like a couple $1,000 camera. That's a cool one. Yeah, that's too bad he missed out on that wild party in his studio.
And eventually, apparently, the painting that did get returned.
Oh, so in the end, the painting did come back?
The painting did come back eventually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Do you, is there any interviews that you'd be at liberty to talk about that you have coming up with Analogue Forever that you're excited about, or?
Um, kind of talk about the ones I've got in the upcoming issue, and those are really interesting. Gokhan Tenrovir, I think I'm saying that right, um, has a series
Has
really fascinates me.
sorry,
Um,
what do they have?
he has this series he's been working on that he did for his MFA project. That's really fascinating because it has to do with mandatory military conscription in Turkey and the process they make gay men go through to get uh,
The process that they go through to get what? Sorry.
an exemption from the military service because the military
Yeah, it's a
does
mandatory
not
service.
gay men to
Yeah.
serve. So there's this really kind of horrific process they have to go to. They have to prove their queerness in front of this government body for 6 months or a year. Um, and him as a gay Turkish man, even though because he didn't do script, uh, he has this series of still lifes where he's worked through the kind of the process that others had to go through, creating images in response.
That sounds like a really interesting series.
So there used to be stark, graphic, black and white still lifes. Um, and his style is very clean and spare and almost forensic in the way it's looking at objects. And so he's using this work with a psychological process of what it means to be a gay.
Oh, your audio is breaking up again. Sorry about that. But we've had some good audio moments, and then we've had some cursed moments. It seems like it's a no bones day for the live. But
Anyway,
I do like I apologize for the technical difficulties we've been having here, but it has been great chatting with you. But I think maybe we'll close it off here, and um, we can possibly do another chat when
Yeah,
the
try
technology.
again when the weather's better.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Is in a different house. I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming and spending some time tonight, and for everyone that stuck with us here, thank you for riding the wave with us with the technology gods, and thank you so much for hanging out and sharing your stories. Next week I'm gonna have Ben for for the Instagram. I don't want to butcher his last name there. But yeah, Ben will be joining next week to talk about Polaroid, and I'm curious to hear about the 20 by 24 experience they recently had with Brooklyn Film Camera and the Camera Dactyl, I think. So that should be a fun episode. But thank you again, Ninian. It was great chatting with you, and I appreciate you sharing your darkroom with us and
Yeah,
um, showing us your audio setup. And we'll definitely do. We'll reconvene another time.
we'll try again when the internet.
That sounds good. Well, have a great night and a great weekend, and stay safe out there, everyone. All right, take care.